August 17, 2017 by William Graham. United Launch Alliance ULA is set to deploy a new satellite for NASA's Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System (TDRS-S) on Friday, with an Atlas V carrying the tdrs-m satellite into orbit. Liftoff from Space Launch Complex 41 SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral is scheduled for a 40-minute window opening at 08:03 local time, 12:03 UTC. TDRS-m launched the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System, or TDRS-S, is a fleet of geosynchronous communications satellites that form part of NASA's space network. Introduced in the 1980s to support the Space Shuttle, TDRS-S continues in service today, providing a relay for communications, scientific data, telemetry, and commands between operators on the ground and spacecraft in Earth orbit, including the Hubble Space Telescope and the International Space Station. See also: the constellation consists of spacecraft stationed in 3 regions of operation: TDRS East over the Atlantic, TDRS West over the Pacific, and TDRS-Z, covering the blind spot or zone of exclusion between the other satellites over the Indian Ocean. The TDRS-6, TDRS-9 and TDRS-12 satellites are currently operating in the Atlantic region, with TDRS-3 as a backup, while TDRS-10 and TDRS-11 are in service over the Pacific, with TDRS-5 as a backup. The TDRS-7 and TDRS-8 satellites serve the Indian Ocean region. In addition to providing communications for spacecraft already in orbit, TDRS-S also supports rockets ascending towards orbit. As it carries the TDRS-M satellite into orbit on Friday, Atlas V will communicate to the ground via both the Atlantic and Indian Ocean regions of the system. The TDRS-12 satellite, which was itself deployed by an Atlas V in January 2014, will provide tracking while the rocket is over the Atlantic from the TDRS-41 slot at 41 degrees west. The later stages of the flight, including spacecraft separation, will be performed in sight of TDRS-7 in the TDRS-275 slot at 85 degrees east, 275 degrees west. Tracking and Data Relay Satellite (TDRS-M) is the last of 3 satellites that comprise the 3rd generation of the TDRS-S constellation. The name TDRS-M is temporary, as spacecraft in the series are given an alphabetical designation before launch, which is then changed to a numeric one once on station in orbit. TDRS-M is expected to become TDRS-13 once in orbit. The 3rd generation satellites have been constructed by Boeing, based around the BSS-601HP bus. Originally announced by Hughes Satellite Systems in 1987, and transferred to Boeing in the latter's merger with Hughes in 2000, the BSS-601 series, formerly the HS-601, was one of the most widely produced satellite platforms of its era. The BSS-601HP is an upgraded model, announced in 1995 and first flown 2 years later. Over 75 BSS-601s have been launched, using a fleet of rockets that has included the Atlas R, 2, 3 and V, the Delta III and Delta IV, Europe's Ariane 4, China's Chang'e 2E, Russia's Proton, and the Zenit 3 SLFC launch. With the BSS-601 now replaced by Boeing's BSS-702 platform, and NASA declining to exercise an option for an additional 3rd-generation TDRS spacecraft, TDRS-M may be the last Boeing 601 to launch. The 3rd-generation TDRS spacecraft succeed the 3 second-generation satellites, which were also built around the BSS-601 platform, although the standard version rather than the HP model. The Constellation's 7 first-generation spacecraft were built by TRW using a bespoke platform. First-generation satellites were launched aboard the Space Shuttle, using an inertial upper stage IUS to reach their operational orbits. TDRS-1 was deployed in this manner during Space Shuttle Challenger's maiden flight, STS-6, in April 1983. An IUS failure left the satellite in a lower-than-planned orbit, which was corrected using TDRS-1's maneuvering thrusters. The spacecraft remained in service for 26 years, finally being retired in October 2009 and decommissioned the following June. The launch of the second TDRS spacecraft, TDRS-B, was delayed from 1984 while an investigation into the IUS failure was conducted. It was eventually reassigned to Challenger's STS-51L mission and was lost along with Challenger and her crew when the shuttle disintegrated 73 seconds into her ascent to orbit. The tdrs-2 designation, which would have been assigned to tdrs-b after deployment, was not reassigned. When the Space Shuttle returned to flight in September 1988, tdrs-3 was the payload of Discovery's STS-26 mission. Further satellites were deployed by Discovery during STS-29, Atlantis during STS-43 and Endeavour during STS-54. The final TDRS satellite to be deployed by the shuttle, and the last first-generation spacecraft, was tdrs-7. This was launched aboard Discovery during the STS-70 mission in July 1995. Aside from tdrs-b, all of the first-generation spacecraft have long exceeded their 7-year design lives, with the oldest operable spacecraft, tdrs-3, nearing its 30th anniversary in orbit. Only tdrs-1 and tdrs-4 have been decommissioned, after 26 and 23 years of service respectively. The second-generation satellites, tdrs-8, 9 and 10, were launched aboard Atlas IIS rockets from Cape Canaveral between 2000 and 2002. The first two spacecraft of the third generation, tdrs-11 and tdrs-12, launched as tdrs-L and tdrs-K, flew aboard Atlas V rockets in January 2013 and 2014 respectively. With a mass of approximately 3,770 kilograms, 8,310 pounds, tdrs-M is slightly heavier than the previous satellites of its generation. It was originally one of two contract options in the contract signed between NASA and Boeing in December 2007 from the latter to build two spacecraft, tdrs-11 and 12. The tdrs-M option was converted to a firm order in 2011, while the second option, tdrs-N, has not been taken up. tdrs-M carries a communications payload that consists of SQ and K-band transponders. The satellite has a pair of steerable antennae, each capable of tracking a single spacecraft and providing communications in all three supported bands. These are used for major missions such as Hubble and the ISS. Additional antennae allow tdrs-M to support multiple spacecraft. The satellite is powered by a pair of solar arrays, with an R4D11300 engine providing propulsion for orbit raising and on-orbit maneuvers. tdrs-M is expected to give NASA at least 15 years of service. tdrs-M will be launched Friday from Space Launch Complex 41 SLC-41 at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. This launch pad, which was originally built for the Titan IIIC rocket in the 1960s, was also used by the Titan IIIE rocket, which deployed the Viking missions to Jupiter and the Voyager probes to the outer planets. It was later used by the Titan IV, before being demolished and rebuilt as the East Coast home of the Atlas V between 1999 and 2002. The tdrs-M launch had earlier been scheduled for the beginning of August, reopening the Eastern Range following a period of downtime maintenance, or recapitalization, which was conducted in July. The launch was delayed after the satellite's Omni S-band antenna was damaged during the final stages of processing, necessitating that it be removed and replaced. As a result of the delay, SpaceX Falcon 9 launch, conducted on Monday to deploy the CRS-12 Dragon spacecraft, was the first after this downtime. Friday's launch will make use of United Launch Alliance's Atlas V rocket, which will be flying in the 401 configuration. The Atlas V, tail number AV074, consists of a Command Core Booster CCB first stage, with a single-engine Centaur SEC upper stage and a 4-meter payload fairing fitted atop the Centaur. Although the Atlas V can fly with up to 5 Aerojet AJ60A solid rocket motors boosting the first stage, AV074 will use none. The Atlas V first flew in August 2002, with Friday's launch occurring 3 days before the 15th anniversary of its maiden flight, which deployed Eutelsat's Hotbird 6 communications satellite. Prior to the tdrs-M launch, Atlas V has made 71 launches, with 70 of these having been completed successfully. The only blemish on its record is the June 2007 NROL-30 mission, which reached a lower-than-planned orbit due to a faulty valve in one of the Centaur's engines leaking propellant as the vehicle coasted between burns. Despite the anomaly, the spacecraft, a pair of intruder ocean surveillance satellites, were able to maneuver into the correct orbits under their own power. The Atlas Command Core Booster, or CCB, is powered by a single RD-180 engine. This burns RP-1 kerosene propellant oxidized by liquid oxygen. The RD-180 is produced by Russian manufacturer NPO Enigmash, and is a twin-chamber derivative of the four-chamber RD-170 series developed for the Zenit rocket. The RD-180 will ignite with about 2.7 seconds remaining until Friday's countdown reaches zero. At about 1.1 seconds after the T0 mark, the thrust generated by the engine will exceed the vehicle's weight and AV074 will lift off, beginning her ascent towards orbit. At 17.7 seconds mission elapsed time, the rocket will begin a series of pitch and yaw maneuvers to align itself with its planned trajectory downrange. Flying out to the east over the Atlantic Ocean, Atlas will reach Mach 1, the speed of sound, 80 seconds after liftoff. 11.8 of a second later, the rocket will experience maximum dynamic pressure, or MAXQ. The RD-180 will power AV074 for the first 4 minutes and 2.2 seconds of the journey to orbit. At this point in the mission, the engine will cease burning, an event designated booster engine cutoff, or BECO. The spent stage will be jettisoned 6 seconds later, with second stage ignition taking place 10 seconds after stage separation. 8 seconds after second stage ignition, the payload fairing will separate from around tdrs-m. Centaur is powered by a single RL-10C1 engine. Burning liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, it will make 2 burns in order to insert tdrs-m into geosynchronous transfer orbit. The first burn, beginning after stage separation and continuing for 13 minutes and 39.5 seconds, will inject the spacecraft and upper stage into an initial parking orbit. Following an extended 90-minute, 6-second coast, Centaur will restart for its second burn, this time firing for 56.4 seconds. tdrs-m will separate from the Centaur 4 minutes and 46 seconds after the end of the second burn. The orbiter spacecraft separation is expected to have a perigee, or point closest to Earth, of 4,540.2 kilometers (2,883.3 miles), 2,505.5 nautical miles. Its apogee, the point farthest from Earth, will be 35,787.7 kilometers (22,237.4 miles), 19,323.8 nmi, while the orbit will be inclined to the equator at 26.2 degrees with an argument of perigee of 180.0 degrees. Following Friday's launch, United Launch Alliance and their Atlas V rocket will next be in action on the 11th of September, deploying a classified national security payload, NROL-42, from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. This is expected to be a signals intelligence satellite bound for a highly elliptical mole near orbit. The TDRS launch is the second of 3 planned from Florida's Space Coast in August. The next, using a Minotaur IV rocket, will take place on the 26th of August. Images via Solar and Boeing.